Welcome to day 4 of Tata Steel and over-the-board classical slow game chess tournament being held in Vachier-Lagrave in the Netherlands. I've seen all of your comments about how well I pronounce Vachier-Lagrave, so let me just say it a few more times. Vachier-Lagrave, Vachier-Lagrave, Vachier-Lagrave. Okay, so look, my friends, you and I both know that slow game chess could be boring at times, and some games go 6 hours and a draw is agreed between the players. Today, I'm just showing you 3 games. And I'm just gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna spoil the entire video right now. Every game today was a draw, every single one. Now, please don't leave. I don't want you to only watch for 37 seconds. There was still some decent level of excitement, and I'm gonna try to make this video as interesting as possible, okay? So please stay with me, okay? Anyway, all right. First, let me explain why Magnus Carlsen is being shot with a Nerf gun, which is a toy inflatable bullet gun. They don't actually hurt, but Jordan van Foreest, the second-ranked player in Norway, plays against Magnus Carlsen. Knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. This is a Spanish. This is one of the kind of more offbeat Spanishes. Normally, black goes bishop to e7 or bishop to c5. Fabiano Caruana played bishop c5 this round against Indian Grandmaster Pentala Harikrishna. And the reason why, I made the thumbnail the fact that Magnus Carlsen got nerfed is the fact that this kind of a structure versus the Spanish with knight c3 and bishop on b3 and d3 and a3, it invites some very serious liquidation. And after the knights were traded and the knight dropped back, Magnus guarded his pawn. And Jordan van Foreest literally just went here, traded, and played knight g3. And it seems as though people's strategy in this tournament, at least the last 2 opponents, Aryan Tari and Jordan van Foreest, has been to trade the pieces and hold. That's it. Hold on for dear life as Hurricane Magnus tries to roar through your soul and take everything that you've ever worked for. And throughout this game, Magnus has one imbalance in this position, his bishop for knight. He's also got more space. He's got more squares controlled on his opponent's side of the board, right? And so he's able in that way to kind of leave Jordan van Foreest with certain weaknesses. And what that ultimately results in is this position where Magnus is a pawn up and threatens a back rank mate. Jordan plays g4. And some moves later, Magnus was just kind of trying to use his activity. He plays rook to d4, attacking this. It's impossible for Jordan to come back and defend it, so he loses the pawn. And it's a really unpleasant endgame to defend. What's actually instructive here is that if the knight and the bishop both disappeared, this would be really easy to draw. Like, very easy. I'm okay. Very easy against Magnus, nothing is very easy. And plus, you and I are both capable of losing with white and with black and with purple and with green, so it doesn't really matter. Rook d7, knight f3, but with knight and bishop, there's some imbalance. Black can, bam, 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 take the knight, take the king, and win the game. In reality, though, Jordan doesn't have to do anything. Jordan's just sitting there and waiting for Magnus to make progress, and Magnus is doing a lot of shuffling. Oh, here come the pawns. Here come the pawns. And then actually Magnus's move rook d2 was just a blunder. Actually, Magnus in this position should have played king to g5, knight f3, and king h5. I rushed where he made the mistake. He should bring his king here and then try to mobilize, but he played rook to d2. And after rook takes h6, I'm not exactly sure what he blundered. Maybe he thought he had this, but then there is just a rook move, and you're safe. Well, I don't know. Maybe he thought he had king f7, and king f7, kind of lining up this. You can't take this because I go king g7, and you have no space. But he loses his pawns, and then maybe he missed this. Maybe he missed that here Jordan can leave his rook unprotected. But then there is knight attacking the rook, so Magnus sacks the rook with check. This is just a draw, and some short while later, they traded, and they got king versus king. So it's 2 days in a row now where we see, the lower-seeded player just actually nerfing Magnus, is why I put him on the thumbnail. And it's just a strategy. I mean, I personally, as a spectator, I wish these players show no respect. Well, I mean, they shake hands, they're polite. I mean, show no respect, and try to, take Magnus's head off when they play him. And at least, if you lose, at least you fought, But this seems to be the strategy, and Magnus Carlsen is not really biting, yeah? So, I have another game for you. This was the longest game of the day. This game went more than 6 hours. I've been actually waiting for this game to finish so I could record this damn recap for like an hour. All the games were done, and these 2 dudes, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and David Anton were just sitting there and delaying this recording. This game was instructive. It was another Ruy Lopez. What do you expect? This one with the bishop to e7 instead of b5 and bishop b7. And actually, this is a variation with d5 known as the Marshal, and it's a very classical variation of the Spanish, where black sacrifices a center pawn. They are down 6 pawns versus 7, but this knight is solid. You've kind of nerfed your own development on this side of the board, and I've got the bishops coming this direction with the queen, and maybe I will checkmate you. Now, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave knows how to move pieces to squares better than most people, and even though he's under a little bit of pressure here, he correctly plays a few, accurate moves in the opening, like rook e4. If you don't know that rook e4 is the best move, you will never play rook to e4, right? Like, you just won't. But it stops bishop to g4. If black plays pawn to f5, it's rook h4, and you lose your queen, kind of like a clown. You just get caged in, and you've actually stopped your own queen from escaping. So, like I said, both players, they know what they're doing. MVL now gives back the h-pawn, as you can see. And this was a tense fight, honestly. It was an interesting game, and MVL in this event has been involved in quite a few intense games. You'll notice here, actually, like, just for a very temporary moment, MVL is down a piece, but he's got this and this. Again, if you try to stick around, I will go bishop d1, and your queen is almost trapped. In this case, you can play like this and give me a check and be protected, but it's almost trapped. Really, the kind of fun and interesting moment of the game happened way later. I'm scrolling through the moves because it was a tense middle game with two rooks, bishop, and pawns, but it began here, really. This is where the game got interesting. Classical chess. Welcome to Classical Chess. 4 hours in, I can say the first official moment of interesting chess begins. It's the fact that MVL is up a pawn. He's got 3 pawns versus 2, which in a traditional sense means that, well, one more pawn, and not to mention they are both on, like, open kind of flanks, whereas these pawns are together. If MVL makes a pawn go to the end of the board and it's protected, he will get a promotion, and he will win some material back. But David Anton made it really damn hard to do that because his position is so active. And White's coordination throughout this game was really hard to manage, and you'll notice that David Anton doesn't trade the bishops too quickly. He brings his pieces forward, even sacrificing a second pawn. David Anton at this moment is down 2 pawns. 2 pawns, that's a lot. That's, that's 2 more than 0. Huge insight here from Gothamchess. But what's happening is that it's so hard for him to move, for MVL to move. I mean, where's this rook going? This is pinned to this. This is stuck. This whole thing is stuck. Half of your pieces are on the same file, one after the other. So MVL ends up having to sacrifice the d-pawn, and now he's only a pawn up, and then now this trade occurs. By the way, notice that he didn't just hang the bishop, there was a fork. And now, you get 2 rooks and 2 rooks, 2 pawns versus 1, but how are you going to win this? You got to push the a-pawn. Well, let's see if the a-pawn ever moves. Let's see if MVL ever gets to move his a-pawn. Oh, did you see that? A4. Oh, but now, is he ever going to go to a5? Oh, he's 1 square closer. Yes. But black is defending this pawn from the back. And there's a lot of things in life, that are better from the back than the front. Like, I don't know, I guess getting into a car accident, right? That would be one. It's better, if you're going to get into it, don't get into a car accident, okay? But if you do, it's better someone, because head-on is dangerous, so I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore, man. Like I said, I gotta kill time and make these games fun. We still got one more fun game, though. That's the most fun game that we have. But the pawn just wasn't able to... it got lost. And the players agreed to a draw on the 80th move of the game. They could have agreed to a draw here, but they decided to agree to a draw here. They actually can't agree to a draw on the 0th move. They have to play 30 moves. Now, this is the most exciting game, and if you skipped ahead to this, watch the rest of the video for mid-roll revenue. And if you made it here after watching throughout, this is, thank you for persevering. Of course, Alireza FIROUZJA is involved in another interesting game. Ari Antari, second-ranked player in Norway, also the title of handsomest grandmaster in the world, plays e4. And we are actually going to look at this game from Alireza's perspective because, let me just say this on full screen, Alireza FIROUZJA is an attacking genius. Now, back to the game. So, Caro-Kann, d4, d5, advanced variation, the most challenging variation to the Caro-Kann, in case you didn't know. Bishop f5, knight f3, e6, bishop e2, And black can play a lot of things here. Black chooses knight to e7, c3. Okay, white can castle. White can play c3, a4, a5, taking space, but c3, and knight to g6. I actually like to play this line with black. You jump 2 times to pressure with the knight. The knight comes here, and then you play f6, supported by your queen, the knight, and so on. Tari plays knight e1. Which is kind of a cool move because it enables you to play g4. When the knight is there, it doesn't allow the bishop to see the pawn, but you want to trap the bishop. So Firo plays h5, and this is not a free pawn because this would activate the rook if you took it, and then I would play queen to h4, and I would laugh in your face and ask you what the hell you're doing in the same tournament as me. I am not Alireza, but the point is that the bishop is hit, and if it takes, it's mate. You lose. So that did not happen. Instead, Tari is basically trying to argue like, look, man, this pawn is just a little bit stupid. I don't really know why it's here. Yes, it's stopping g4, but it's not doing anything else. But now he takes. Why does he take now? Because the queen is gone. There is no queen to access this. So Firo takes, but now g4. Uh-oh, what about this bishop? Rook takes h5. And pawn takes, and the knight goes to f4. Takes e5, knight h3 check, king g2. And by the way, this while this was going on, when this pawn took, the queen is hanging, so you have to stop this. So it is the 15th move of the game. FIROUZJA is down 3 points of material, but what does he have to counterbalance that? How does he compensate for his loss of material? He's got a very, very active attack on this king. He has got much more development. I mean, 5 out of Tari's 6 pieces really involved in the game are in the back rank, asleep in their bunkers. But we got c5, f4, queen slides over to put pressure like this, maybe discovered attack, knight f3, and long castles. And listen, if you give Firo a couple more moves, you know what's going to happen? He's going to play bishop e7, rook g8, or rook h8, and attack you over there, or he's going to rip open the center of the board. So Tari here plays knight to b2, knight moves out to b6, the rook is now activated behind the d-pawn. So queen goes to e1, I said the bishop was going to come to e7, right? So rook to c1, and now the move d4. Alireza Firouzja waits for his opponent to put the rook on the same file as his queen and his king, and then he volunteers to open the file. You know why? Because Alireza Firouzja is that goddamn psychopath in the movie. When the gun is to his head, he presses his forehead into it, okay? Because Firouzja is the future. Okay, he is able to make any position look interesting. Alireza Firouzja would be able to make classical music sound like dubstep. Alireza Firouzja turns water into wine. I mean, the man is... I'm just very excited to see what is going to happen in his career, because this man knows how to play a game of chess. Okay, so c takes d4, he does not take back, he uses the recently freed up square for his horsey. The knight goes to c4, because to be honest, you are not going to be able to defend everything here. If the queen moved here to guard this, it would stop guarding the bishop. So knight takes f4, bishop takes, knight takes. One of Tari's defenders has been removed, and now the bishop goes to g4, because you are attacking the knight, and if the knight were to move like here, it would get taken, but also not to mention that that is mate, because the knight is protecting the queen. So the rook goes to c3, and Alireza plays rook to d4, which looks a lot cooler than it is. Again, it cannot be taken, because queen g2 is mate. Tari is now only up 2 points of material. Tari plays the move knight d6. This is a correct move, because he wants Firouzja to take and remove attackers from his position. But Firouzja just plays king b8 and goes, and look, I got 3 guys looking at this horse, you know? It's like, you're surrounded, where are you gonna go anyway? So queen to e3, and bishop to g5. Again, this cannot be taken, the horsey which could not do anything, hitting both pieces. Here, the threat is knight to h3, winning the queen. However, in this position, Tari, in a low time situation, could have played the move, a computer doesn't even see this if you let it think for like a minute, king to h1. A minute is too much, like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. King to h1. Removing the knight from the king's, kind of, you know, from putting the king in any danger. And apparently you walk into this pin and you're just winning. You're winning because you cannot defend White's plan of attack now. Like now, White's material advantage is going to become something. For example, if I play bishop to h3 attacking the rook, queen takes d4. That's the threat. Pawn takes, and then you lose your own queen. Once you nerf Firouzja's most powerful attacker, I've used that word throughout this entire video, it's on the thumbnail for a reason. Once you remove his most powerful attacker, he's not going to be able to attack. Chess is a logical game, right? So... But he misses king h1, which was a ridiculous resource, instead going rook takes c5, very aggressive and hostile move. If you take, which is what happens in the game, he now has a choice of which thing to take. He chooses to take on g5, Alireza Firouzja gives a check, Tari plays king to g2, and here, the players agree to a draw. The players agreed to a draw, ladies and gentlemen. It's the 30th move of the game. Tari, with minutes, like 1 minute on the clock per player for the next 10 moves, plays king to g2 and offers a draw. FIROUZJA accepts. The game could have continued, but Firo did not leave himself enough time. In this position, he has an absolutely beautiful thing. You can pause the video if you'd like to try to find it. By all means, please go ahead and do that. I will take another sip of my water. Anyway, in this position, FIROUZJA could have played bishop to e2. Now, on a surface level, that just attacks the rook. It doesn't look like it actually does anything revolutionary. However, if you take, in this position, I can go check. You protect your queen from my queen. I go check. You take my bishop, and I go check. You take. I've deflected you from your queen, and the cherry on top is it's a fork. So I win the queen and then the rook, and then, you know, it's queen versus horsies. And white is not going to survive this position. So what do you do if you don't take the knight? Well, you can play like rook to e1, but here there's an absolutely beautiful rook d1 all the same. Sacrificing the queen for absolutely nothing, because if you take, I take the queen, take, check. The only king move is here, and now the evil of board geometry. The knight attacks the king and the queen while also protecting the rook, which protects the bishop. So black has an impenetrable wall of pieces. The king has to go here, knight c5, and if you go here to try to fork me, I can go back, but I can also go here and attack the knight. FIROUZJA missed his chance at the very end. The game was agreed to draw. And, well, there was a lot of draws today, but this was definitely the most exciting one of all. Who's to say classical chess is not interesting? It actually is very interesting. But I'm not going to lie, my friends. When the players make so many draws, it can be sometimes difficult for me to make every single game exciting. However, these are our standings after 4 days of Tata Steel. Hare Krishna, Magnus Carlsen, Fabiano Caruana, Anish Giri, and Niels Grandelius, Swedish #1, in first place with 2.5 points. Nothing really changed. I mean, everybody got an extra half point added. I believe we now have some rest days coming up. Like, there's going to be a day that there are no games. That is how it works. So I'm not skipping out on recaps because I'm bored or something. It's just they don't play any chess. So keep an eye out for other videos. Those of you that are returning viewers and subscribers, thank you all once again for your continued support. I will make these recaps in every top-level event that features some of the Grandmasters we love the most. If you are new to the channel and somehow this is the first video of mine you are watching, welcome. Hi. You should check out some of the other playlists on puzzle solving, openings, and general chess things. I will see you in the next video.